The other thing that you need to really put out there, which I think has been really helpful, is to disclose that anyone should be able to write a performance improvement report on anyone else, including the bosses. Hi, welcome to another episode of Baktari MD. As you know, this season we are doing Crash CEO School, where we help you acquire all the skill sets you need to take your organization to the next level. Today, I want to talk about quality and quality improvement, performance improvement, and getting your organization to get to the next level. Obviously, quality depends on a lot of things. It involves hiring the right people, the proper training, and just having processes and procedures in place that ensure that you put out a great product, great service, great quality. But on top of that, as time rolls by, how do you maintain quality? How do you find out where there's areas of weakness? How do you know what to work on? Which areas need to improvement? So today in this video, I'm going to go over two tools, I would say, that you can use in your organization to always stay on top of quality, on top of performance, to deliver better products, better services. So two things we're going to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is what happens when people make natural errors or they make errors that they were unaware of in terms of what to do. I think traditionally what happens in those cases, people say, oh, we'll advise them that maybe that wasn't the way to handle the call, or we no longer have that product and you should have not have said that, or he shouldn't have said that. But really, to keep it on a structural level, the important thing when these things happen is to figure out a way to document it for multiple reasons and then use that documentation to improve the organization. So in our organization, what we call those is performance improvement reports, meaning when something goes not according to plan, when someone doesn't perform like they should have for whatever reason, sometimes lack of training, sometimes they were unaware of a new policy, a new product, it's important to document that. And I'm going to go over why. One, first of all, the performance improvement is meant not as a write-up or a disciplinary action. And that's the culture you need to send, that if someone writes a performance improvement report, it's simply meant what the name says. We just want to improve performance. It's not the same thing as an incident report or employee write-up, and really shouldn't be necessarily in the personnel file. It's really meant as a tool to get everyone better. And I think culturally that's the message you need to send out before you implement performance improvement. Once everyone's aware that a performance improvement report is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's simply meant to bring some things to their attention, the other thing that you need to really put out there, which I think has been really helpful, is to disclose that anyone should be able to write a performance improvement report on anyone else, including the bosses, right? So if your boss makes a mistake and handles something incorrectly or not ideally per the way the organization is supposed to be run, there should be no blowback if someone says, hey, I'm going to write a performance improvement because I saw that document and this was left out and this was left out. Because I think a lot of times people think if someone's my supervisor, maybe I'll mention it gently or something, but oh well. But I think if we knew what the real purpose of performance improvement, which is to have even other people who didn't make that mistake learn from it. So what we do is we write performance improvement, and anyone can write a performance improvement report on anyone else. And that performance improvement report goes to the person's supervisor, and that supervisor then sits down on a weekly or monthly basis and goes over them. And yes, they are filed away, but not necessarily in the person's HR file. So it's not really meant to determine raises or demotions, what have you. Now, in all fairness, if it becomes excessive at a certain point, it's going to be obvious that we may have to intervene. Now, getting back to the point, though, what's the point of all this? The point of this is that think of performance improvement as mistakes, right? Just for simplicity's sake. If a mistake happens, right, the whole goal of even pointing it out, because once the mistake happens, it's happened and it's either been repaired, fixed, whatever. So the goal of this performance improvement is not to put salt on the wound, embarrass anybody, but to make sure the person who made it doesn't make the same mistake. They have clarity on what the right thing was, but also then to take that information from that performance improvement report and look at it globally and then come up with ways to make sure other people don't make the same mistake. And that's the second thing I'm going to talk about. But let's finish this, and then I'm going to teach you how to take that information from the performance improvement report and then help other people learn from those mistakes, right? Without actually disclosing who made the mistake or why. So there's no reason to embarrass anyone or even insinuate something. But if you really want to see where the weakness in your organization is, then you take the last months, 2 months, 6 months of performance improvement report. You can look at it by department. You can look at it by seniority, how junior they are, if they're recently hired, if they've been there for a long time. And then you can come up with strategies to work on addressing them on a more global level. One of the most common things I see is like, Bill accidentally sent that client the wrong form out. So I talked to Bill and said, Bill, that was the wrong form. And 3 months later, Susie sends the wrong form for a similar client. Oh, I talked to Susie and I told her that was the wrong form. This whole idea of like going person to person and one-on-one letting him know that something was wrong really doesn't work in a big organization. It's not very professional. It's not very efficient. So at a certain point, if Bill and Susie are making the same mistake, even 6 months apart, the idea is we don't want another one 6 months later. So how would we even know this occurred 6 months ago? How would we even know, there's been 3 of these in the past 6 months? If there isn't one central place where you have all this information, so you can see the trends, you can see who's making, you can see, because sometimes a mistake is a one-off, like it'll never happen again, but sometimes, almost many times, it will definitely happen again. Maybe new hires don't really know we have this product. And so people call and say, do you have this product? Because it's a product that we seldom sell. So you now realize that this could be a problem with new hires or what have you. And how do you implement strategies and address this so this doesn't become a recurring theme? Can only happen if you have some level of documentation, right? If you didn't document it, it didn't happen. Because I see in some organization, I think, last year I think this happened too with one of our salespeople, that they gave a quote that was really wrong because they didn't factor the extra work because this person's, in another state. So that's going to mean we're going to need to hire people. And that's it. Whatever it is, the point is these performance improvement reports help you in many, many ways.
eNational testing makes getting a simple laboratory test as easy as ordering something online. With 3 simple steps, you can have your tests ordered for STDs, general health, allergy testing, diabetes screening, blood titers, and more. You can simply go in for testing the same day and get your results quickly to your email. eNationalTesting.com's complete healthcare panels come with easy-to-understand results at over 2,700 locations nationwide. It's time to focus on yourself. eNationalTesting.com. Easy, convenient, and tailored to your health needs.
And the second thing I want to talk about that I think these performance improvement can convert into is policy. Having a policy book and a policy manual. So what happens with these performance improvement reports, once you see the trends, once you see, oh my gosh, everybody in this department is making this mistake because I don't think they really have a handle on what marketing is doing. So then you may, create a policy, but then you may have the marketing people come over once a quarter and give an in-service to the salespeople, or vice versa. You can't come up with strategies like writing new policies. Okay, so every new hire gets this policy, like, hey, when someone from out of state calls, you have to do this. Or when a client calls after hours and they want something on the weekend, this is what you're supposed to do. These policies have to be etched in stone. Often you hear people say, oh, I'm sorry you were given that information. They're not on the installation team, they're on the office. So let's say, a couple of years ago, I was having a gate installed, and So the guy comes to install the gate, and I say, wait a minute, hold on a second. The people in the office said that the gate's going to open this way or that way, and he goes, oh, those are the salespeople. They don't really know, but I'm here now. But you can see how lack of communication. So if policies and procedures were written where they didn't disclose information or deferred you to someone else or what have you. So the performance improvements then lead to a policy manual, and the goal of that policy manual is to document some of these errors and what the corrective action should be so they don't occur. And then you have every employee read the policies. We have them sign off on it every quarter where they read the policies and sign off that they've reread them. Because the goal when it comes to quality and errors is to minimize them. But you have to have an active plan to minimize errors, and you have to have an active plan to minimize mistakes. And honestly, for people who don't do this, most of the mistakes that you see or you're exposed to when you're dealing with them, it's probably happened before. Maybe a week ago, maybe a year ago, but it's happened before. You're not the only customer that was, given the wrong info or this or that. And even when you point it out to a company like, hey, I think this doesn't jive up with what I was told, like, well, I'll go back and I'll let that person know. But okay, that resolves the problem with that person. But what about in 6 months when another customer is calling the new hire of that person and they have the same thing? What's going to stop the perpetuation of sometimes honest mistakes that, unless someone really clarifies it and points it out, will probably happen again? And I think this is the whole point, that some of these customer errors, quality issues have happened before. They will happen again. And you can't simply talk to people, every new person, after it happens. So the action plan, one, is to have performance improvement report. One, so you can, in an objective way, communicate what went wrong with the person who made the error. And especially you can also see if that error has occurred with them many times. And then use that data to come up with policies or strategies in your organization, which may involve in-services or other things, to make sure that there's heightened awareness of this potential error and you can deliver a product with less issues. Now, if all goes well, the amount of work you're going to put into this is going to translate into happier customers, a better product, better reputation, right? Because every time we make a mistake, people go online, write a review, people will tell their neighbors, you will lose them as lifelong customers. And by the way, if these fatal things occur with a corporate client and you lose a corporate account, that's not going to be any fun. So I think investing time in writing performance improvement report and then getting that data and coming up with an action plan. And remember, the key to this plan, just to reiterate, anyone can write a performance improvement on anyone. So this is not just a management tool. This is a tool for everyone, right? Because if we all are in the same ship and we want the quality to get better, who cares who made the mistake? Who cares who wrote the wrong information down? Who cares who conveyed the wrong information? It doesn't really matter. It could be the boss, could be the CEO, could be anybody. And if everybody understands when they get a performance improvement report, it's not a write-up, it's not an incident report, it's simply a tool to provide better quality so you know what you can improve on. And if everybody views it that way, in the right kind of organization, you should almost welcome it, right? Like, bring it on. If I've done something that could be better, let me know, share it with me. And if you can get your organization to the level where people are like, bring it on, yeah, because I want to get better. I whether I'm the supervisor, the boss, whatever, I want to get better. And by the way, sometimes the bosses or supervisors, normally don't get involved in the weeds. And so somehow they get involved and they say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing because that's not what they do all day. You should write a performance improvement report on your boss and in a good way and just say, look, this is not how we normally do things. And I think what you did or said or what you put in that email is not really what we can deliver. And so I just want to document that so we're all aware. And maybe other leaders in the organization need to hear this. So there is a way to do this. There is a way to improve quality. But if you don't have an active plan to improve quality and reduce errors, that eventually will translate down to your customers, both corporate and otherwise. And at a certain point, if it's rampant, if the culture of errors and there's no consequences, no documentation, I think it eventually will catch up with most organizations. Okay, so I hope that helps. Just a couple of strategies: performance improvement reports, writing policies, and other strategies to act on those, I think will help your organization really get to the next level. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next video.